Welcome, everyone. This is the OpenFGA community meeting for February 2024. We are already in the second month of the year, so times fly. Today we have a very similar agenda as we usually have, but with different content. So we'll start with some introductions, mention the things we shipped this last month, do some demos, discuss what we're currently working on, share some community news, and then Q&A. Part of the Q&A will be try to talk about modeling. So if someone has any question about modeling, please think about it, and we can go over it. We pick the first one who asks something about that. We'll take the opportunity to dig into that use case. And if not, I will figure something out. And then, so this is us. We just have a new designer join the team. She's not in the meeting today. He's Donnie. And then Matthew is going to start working on something else after Donnie gets onboarded. But I have new team member. This is the other part of the team that just joined a couple of months ago. So we are kind of growing, which is very exciting for the project. So now what we usually do is, in particular for the people who haven't been here in previous meetings, if you can, to spend like, I don't know, 30 seconds introducing yourself, saying like what company you work for, what brings you here, kind of experience you have with FGA, it will be awesome. So I will kind of do some silence and give you some space to unmute yourselves and briefly introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Nicholas. I work for Index, which is a small startup. We found OpenFGA working with Google Zanzibar, reading that white paper. And it seems like, in my opinion, a very, very useful authorization tool for the type of reback authorization that we would like for our application. So we are adopting it and finding it very, very useful.
Awesome. Where are you in your adoption journey? Is like you just starting? You already have it in production?
So we've already pretty much written the model for everything that we would like. We are just about to roll it out actually this week. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
Of course.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I can say hello as well, Alexander. I live in Sweden, Stockholm. So I'm working on a connector for OpenFGA to the streaming engine I'm building. So why I'm interested in OpenFGA, I think, is like been evaluating a lot of different permission systems, and I think OpenFGA kind of hits a sweet spot right now. That looks good. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexander.
I can say hello. My name is Ala. I'm in Berlin. I work for a company called Join. It's like we build the software that help companies to recruit people. So we are adopting OpenFGA to build like a new authorization system for our company. And yeah, we are early adopting it. We have our modules, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ala.
I can go next. Hey, everyone. I'm Jigar. I'm an engineer working for a company called MoveWorks. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada. MoveWorks is a SaaS company that offers enterprise Copilot for customers. And we are using OpenFGA for our authorization use cases in both reback and RBAC for our customers. We are using it in production for the past couple of months. Things are going well. We do have some performance issues that we are looking at, which I'll reach out to the team in the Discord community.
Awesome. Yeah, we can follow up on those this week if you want.
Hello. I'm Mohan. I work for a large investment manager called T. Rowe Price. So we're using OpenFGA in production now in my project. So we're hoping that others will adapt as well. It's working great. Interestingly, yeah, as of today, actually, I was investigating some performance issues. I can say that the performance is not a problem in the OpenFGA server, but the SDK, OpenFGA SDK.NET SDK that I'm using might have some issues. So yeah, I'm looking into that. But otherwise, we are using it because we wanted some granular authorization. So this is working greatly for us. So that's all. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohan.
I'll go next. My name's Noah. I am here in Ohio in the US. I work for a company called New Innovations, and we do residency management for hospitals all over the world. And we are doing kind of a move from a legacy to a new greenfield hybrid approach. And we have 25 years of RBAC that's very convoluted, and hopefully being able to port that and implement kind of a new world order for permissions. I haven't been in this meeting in a while. We've kind of had some executive shakeup, so I'm back on the train of pushing OpenFGA and just more POCs exploring it. So I just wanted to jump back in. And I also see that there's a lot more tooling that's just popping up everywhere, and companies that are putting OpenFGA to good use. So I'm just excited to be back.
Awesome. Excited to have you back, Noah.
Hi everyone. I'll go next. I'll go by XTC. I'm based out of Glasgow, Scotland. We've been working with, so I work for a software development agency. We've been working with OpenFGA for the past few months, and we're looking to launch a production platform within the next few weeks for one of our clients using it. So it's been great for us. Looking forward to seeing all the other features and updates coming in the future. So yeah, it's my first community meeting. So great. Thanks, everyone.
Hi,
Perfect.
so I'm Carlos Perez.
Yeah.
I'm Carlos Perez. I work for New Relic. I have been coming to this meeting for since it started. And every time I've always been saying, oh, I'm in the prototype phase because the company never had time to actually start implementing it until recently. Now we've started our implementation journey, and I'm working on proving that it supports both the legacy authorization model as well as a fine-grained authorization model, which is I've been successful at, but I've realized that one of the things I've learned is sometimes you don't always need to model everything that you have currently in order to get the same answer, which is has been exciting because it introduces a certain level of it reduces your mental strain on trying to understand the problem, but it also introduces a new one because now you got to think about it differently. So it's always that's fun. Anyway, next.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carlos. I'm really excited that you finally got to the point to start implementing. So thanks. Anyone else wants to introduce themselves? Okay, cool. So let's start. I find the right way to share my screen. Stop share. Share again. Okay. So we haven't shipped a lot the last week. We were kind of busy writing documents and designs and discussing things. But we shipped a version of OpenFGA with the security fix. So if you can upgrade, that will be great. In general, it's unlikely that happens to you unless you have like a lot of list objects called that timeout. That was what happened in our production use case, and we identified that and address the issue. What we are adding, and we'll be demoing this, is that kind of we are keep improving on CLI, and now we have a feature to export the stores, so you can write a single command and get the model, the tuples, and the tests, so you can then run them from the CLI if you want directly. So that's something we'll be demoing today. And also we have like Alexander that I saw he was doing some work on GitHub, which sound intriguing for me, and I talked to him on Tuesday. He demoed something that I thought it was awesome, and I didn't fully understand how that he does all the magic, but we probably find out more today. So I will give him the opportunity now to share his screen and demo it. So thank you very much, Alexander, for accepting the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take over, and I will say this is very experimental, to be honest. So it's not something that I would recommend anyone to use yet in production in any way, what I'm going to demo. Let's see if I can share. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So let's see. I'm not a Zoom guy, so can you hide the bar in the top? Maybe not. But we'll start anyway. So I have developed before quite recently open sourced a streaming engine for .NET to basically handle integrations, etc., with different type of computations. So I developed a connector for OpenFGA to both insert data and read data. And I think I have both demos, but I think the one that I will show today is the more experimental one, which is taking authorization model permission and convert that to a query to basically denormalize or materialize the permission structure to, say, a document or similarly from then a more complex model. So what I will show is we have some type of model here that is a semi-advanced according to me, but you have probably seen much worse. But say a role with some permission can view a role binding where you need a user and then can view from the role. Organization group, which then has a parent, so we have some hierarchy, role bindings, and then finally a document where we say you can view if you can view it from the organization, and some tuples here as well. So I will take this one then, and I have in my application a small line here, which is OpenFGA to flow type convert. This will then basically, I developed an algorithm then that goes through the authorization model based on these two parameters, the type and the permission, and converts it into relational algebra. And then I can then run, get out the data from that one. So this is very much, how to say, flow type specific. So I will try to be as quick as possible here. But you can then add this as a SQL view, so to say. So I create a view called permission view with this plan that I created from OpenFGA. This allows me to use SQL to take out that data. So I take all the permissions data I got and then says, okay, I want to group this by object ID, the final object, and then do a list aggregate of all the users that has permissions on that document. And I will insert that into a MongoDB. And also just, we take some documents from SQL Server and joins that as well with the OpenFGA. So that is kind of like before I start the demo, so you know what it's about. So I will start it up. So this will start up a SQL Server, OpenFGA and everything. So it will take a few seconds. Okay, I think it's up. So here we have OpenFGA with the authorization model and tuples. here you can actually see this is from Floater, this is the stream. So here you can see it's becomes quite a big, how to say, a relational model, but it is then an iterative process where it loops through because of the hierarchical structure, and finally it outputs data. But we can open MongoDB right now and see that we have document 1 has 2 permissions or 2 users, user 1, user 2, and document 2 has no permissions. And user 2 is in there because there is an organization group 2 is parent of organization 1. So we will add a tuple here where we say organization group 2 is now the organization on document 2. And we click save. See, yes, it's in there. And we check here. And now we can see that user 2 as well has access to document 2. And we can go and say, yeah, woo. We didn't like this parent hierarchy, so we think that this, of course, has to be removed. So we delete it, and we can go in and see that now, of course, only user 1 has the permissions to them. And we can even say that, okay, no one should be able to view. I think that's the most important. And now we can see that no one, of course, has permissions, and we can quickly add that again to the 0.1. And now we should be able to see that, yes, now they have permissions again on these 2 documents. So that is basically how it works. So it creates this. Let's see if we can go back here. So the thing that it does is basically create this entire big structure of taking all the computed user sets and everything to create joins and etc. and unions.
So a question there.
Yep.
So this graph that you're showing is what is the output of that relational algebra plan that you created? So based on the model. Okay.
Exactly.
This is created dynamically based on whatever model you have and whatever permissions you want to denormalize, right?
Yes. So that is, to be honest, one of the reasons I like OpenFGA, because you have the immutable model. So usually, since this, of course, if you change the model, you need to create a new plan. So now this will be for an immutable model. If you change the plan and want to recreate everything, you need to then calculate again the new plan. Let's see if we go here instead. Yeah, this function needs to run again on the new plan to create a completely new execution plan. So how am I on time? I'm not sure if there is, or if there is anything someone particularly want to see or something.
In the demo you showed me the other day, maybe you cannot show me that now. You also had a demo where you changed something in SQL Server. Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah,
which was also cool.
Yeah, so here is in SQL Server again, so we can change. Let's first, before I save this, I don't know if it got saved. I hope not. Yes, it only says doc1, doc2. So we updated this row, so it says doc2 test, and now it says doc2 test here as well. So I mean, you can integrate with any type of system, and you don't have to be in the same place or anything. You can go to Elasticsearch, MongoDB. Like there is a list of the connectors I support right now is these connectors. We have Kafka there as well, but also custom where you can implement against an API or whatever you want, really, to input the data where you need it.
So the idea here is that you're creating a denormalized index that you use for search, where you have data from multiple sources feeding that index, right? In this case, from SQL and OpenFGA, right? And then your searches will happen over that index view, which in this case is MongoDB, correct?
Yes, exactly. So our plan is that we will index the permissions, and then when you actually click on the say a document or something, then we will do an additional access check against OpenFGA since we want since the search permissions will always be lagging behind a bit, even if it's a second or two. So that is kind of the plan. But I think we will mostly also, to be honest, use the sync to insert a lot of data into OpenFGA as well.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, the reason I found this very exciting is this kind of try to solve two problems. One is the last one that Alexander mentioned, which is in any system you're building, you need to write tuples to OpenFGA, right? And in general, having a system where you have a queue where all those changes can be processed helps, and this can help in that regard. And then the other problem that you might need to solve, depending on your use case, is if you have complex search scenarios when there's a lot of data and you need to filter those for permissions, we have APIs to help you there, like list objects, or you can use check over the search results. But there are some scenarios where it will be better to create a local index that you can directly join with your tables, or build a denormalized index like this one. And I think the approach Alexander is taking is very promising in that approach. So we just learn about it. We're going to try to learn more about how it works, and see how we can incorporate some of these ideas, work with him. So it's still very early to figure out how this is going to play out. On the other hand, if for some of you this is interesting, in particular if you're a .NET shop, right, and it could be interesting for you to take a look at this one and see if it makes sense for you to help Alexander in improving it for use cases, and also try to test it in some of your scenarios.
I wanted to add is this
questions.
one might be interesting before there is possibility to also add stop types, say company or similar, where it basically, so you don't want to resolve it all the way, where you perhaps want to use list objects or something down to say company. If you have 10,000 users in a company, it might not be useful to dump all 10,000. So instead you perhaps want to use your list object to get which companies a user belongs to. Then you can use stop a type as well. Sorry, but yeah, was there any questions?
Yeah, Jigar, go ahead.
Yes, I did have one question. This is very interesting, and also very relevant to us, because this is something we do. We also do this similar sort of pre-filtering and post-filtering for our search use case. It's just that for pre-filtering we use the OpenFGA APIs. We use the read API on the file permissions. Ours is more like users or groups can be attached to permissions. So we just fetch the direct groups and users that are assigned to view permissions using the read API. One thing I'm curious about is, are you, in this case, it seems like you are reading off of the OpenFGA DB itself, and are you listening to the DB change logs to compute this?
No, I am using, I can show, let me see, now we will go into the heart of it, but I think that's usually where people find it interesting. So we will see the function I use, this is on the .NET SDK, I just use read changes from OpenFGA. So no database specific things, so just read changes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
But from SQL Server, of course, it's like change tracking, etc., to get that type of functionality, just to be clear. So it depends on which source. If there's a source I have that supports changes like OpenFGA, then I will use that one. If it doesn't, it's time to find alternatives. Before I end, this is a bit of a self-promotion, but it's very early for me in the open source. So I'm a bit like, if you like what you see, and I wouldn't mind if you give me a star as well on GitHub, since right now in the start it's hard to get your name out. So that was my self-promotion.
Yeah, please just put the link there in the chat so everyone just can click the link and start it. So yeah, perfect. Just let me find it. So thank you very much, and great job, Alexander. It was very useful. I think it's a very interesting approach, and we've learned more about it soon.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, perfect. And please go and start Alexander's repo. Thank you very much. Okay, so now go back to. So actually, I'm going to stop sharing because this next thing is a demo that Michael's going to do with a few new things we're doing on the CLI. So I will let him share.
Thank you. All right. So today I'm going to demo, we have this issue that is getting ready for a PR, and it's to allow us to export our store data through the CLI. And the goal is to export all the model, the tuples, and the assertions. That way, when you import, you can use it for an import later to pull all that data in. So just start up the FGA client locally here. And get a new store going. So I'm just going to use the sample store. And here you can see we have the sample user group folder relations with a doc, add a couple tuples here. So let's add a user as a member of group FGA. And
You had a
save my
typo
store
with the word user.
What?
You had a typo with the word user also.
Oh, I also needed to save my store. Forgot to. All right. And add an assertion. Okay. And I want to add a negative assertion too. So I have two assertions going, and they should all check. And I've got my tuples. So I'm going to go to the store here. And in order to get what I want, I need the store ID. So I'll copy that real quick. And FGA store export and the store ID. And there's all the relations and checks ongoing. So what's left to add to this is using an output flag. I can even do model changes on it. So if I add another type here, and save the database, I will get a different model ID. So I'm just going to pull that from the authorization model ID. And I'm going to pull the earlier one. So here's what the latest looks like with the store ID. You can see there's the new type roles. If I use model ID, of course, I didn't actually copy the ID. Hold on. And that shows my previous model export. So like I said, that's a PR that's going to be coming in here. And what we can do with that is we can take that export and use it on the import side of the CLI on another machine if you wanted, or use it as a snapshot. That's what I have for you. Any questions?
Yeah, so XTC is asking if the use case is mostly used during development.
It is useful. When we have our store FGA, it also might be useful for ingestion. Like if you have a data set that you already you need in the beginning of prod or staging. You can work it out in development, export it, and then pull it in to ingest later.
Yeah, it's also like we also have this the sample stores that we have like a way to import them quickly. This will be also a way to kind of get sports for us, get a store that we created and store it as
Absolutely.
A store that we might want to refer later. And it's also useful for scenarios like we working as a community, right? So someone wants to share something with someone else, right? And the best way is to share an FGA.YAML file, so they can export from their OpenFGA thing, share that with someone, and then someone else can import it later. So,
yep,
those are kind of the most interesting use cases. Okay, cool. That's it for demos. So now I can go back to slides. So this is what we're working now. So we're going to discuss a little more modular authorization models that we've been discussing in the last couple of meetings. We have now a proposal that I think we had to go a lot of back and forth with it because each solution we found has some issue that we didn't love. We get to a compromise now. And we keep working and improving validation in VS Code. That's going to be done this week. And in the Literature API, and we started working with the Spring community to build an integration with Spring. So if you are in the Java world, that might be useful for you. And then the things that are coming next, we also discussed in previous meetings, but we're going to improve the way you can define who can perform specific actions in the model, like creating models or writing specific tuples to specific types. Open source and DynamoDB storage adapter that we use in the Okta FGA product, and doing integration with the JetBrains IDEs. Jan is helping out a lot of that because he's building the module bindings with the language bindings for Java. So thank you very much, Jan. We really appreciate your work there. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to keep working on VS Code, and also we're starting to research GraphQL integration. So if any of you is using GraphQL, we'll love to learn from you because we want to understand better how we can help in that ecosystem. Basically, the use case there is the first one is when you're filtering data with GraphQL, how you can filter the tuples and as part of the GraphQL results, and the patterns to do that the most efficient way. And also, if you mutate the GraphQL model, how we can impact that in tuples and in the system, right? So we want to. I personally don't know anything about GraphQL, and we have some people in the team who do, and we want to learn from you how you're using it and how we can improve it. Anyone has experience with GraphQL or have already integrated that in OpenFGA with GraphQL?
Yes, we use GraphQL as our backend, and I've been integrating OpenFGA with GraphQL for the past couple of weeks.
Awesome.
It has posed some challenges, and I'd love to talk about it. So if there's anything I can do to help with that one, let me know. Awesome.
Yeah, please reach out to me if you can in Discord. Send me a DM, and we can have a conversation about that so we can learn a little more about using it. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. Okay, good. And so I mentioned we're working in modular models. We had an RFC. We iterated more internally with discussions that we haven't still put in the RFC, in the final RFC. But let me show you how this is an internal repo for now, how it's going to look like, and I can give you some ideas of why we ended up with this approach. So the idea of modular models is the scenario, the example we give is always something like you are Atlassian, you are building Confluence and Jira, okay, as internal products, right? And but they share certain things. So you want them to be to have the types for Jira and the types for Confluence in the same conceptual FGA model, okay? But on the other hand, you want the Confluence team to manage the types for the types that they own. In this case, will be spaces and pages. And you want the Jira team to manage the types for the types they own, which will be a project and a ticket. Okay. So the idea for a modular of the modules is how we can split the model in different modules, and each team can manage their own, and then we can combine them in a single model. Okay, that is the idea. And so the approach we decided to take, so we had a few ideas. The last one we shared was we're going to have something like this, like a module core and then module confluence. In module confluence, we're going to be able to import core. Okay, we don't do that anymore, so we just declare the module, and then when you combine the models, we will namespace the types with the module name. So like this type would be confluent.space, right? So we decided to not do that, and instead of namespacing the types, we're just going to use the types we wrote. So if you want to name the type to be called confluence.space, you just type confluent.space, right? And the idea about that is that if we force you to, if we start using the module name as a type name, that implies you need to change the tuples and your application to start checking and writing new types. Okay, so that implies if you want to refactor or change the modules, that implies a big migration in your apps and your tuples. Okay, and we prefer that you had the chance of at any moment refactor your modules without that being a huge migration in your app. Okay, so that we decided, okay, the types you write are the types we're going to use. If you want to namespace them, you can do that yourself, but it's not forced as part of this. Right? And then the other thing is, instead of letting you import a module here, we are a different module here. We're going to have a file that we're going to just take the Golang pattern, which is you have a file which has all the contents of the FGA models that this model will have, right? And we're going to use this as the source of truth to combine the models. Okay? So if you want to use modules, then you will create this file. This file is going to point to all the files that you want to combine, and then you're going to write something like a CLI command that is somewhere like something like this. Okay, that is going to read this file with all the FGA files and create a single model and write it to the store. And it will create at the end of the day a model that looks like this. Any questions about the approach? Makes sense? Not much?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to define the same type in different modules? Because we have the case where, for example, we have a very common concept, for example, user type, and we have different teams which have their business bounding context. And we want each teams will have to handle their relations, but on the user type. So it would be very useful to be able to redefine the same type and just sum all the relations defined in the different module.
Perfect. Yeah. So that is a use case that we discussed, right? And so the use case, just let me see if I understand it correctly, is like it will be similar to saying you have organization here, right? That is in the core module. Organization is referenced by every other module, okay? And you want the members of the Confluence team to add a new relation here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So there are two parts of that story. I think we discussed that in the conference. There are two parts there. One is if you can, who can edit this file, right? And the way we think this is going to be handled is you're going to have like a code owners file who's going to see all the members of a specific team can manage can approve changes to specific files, right?
Yep.
So one way you can handle this is, okay, if without adding something specific for the feature you mentioned, the approach would be each team is going to submit a PR to the core FGA file, and they will add the relation they want, and it needs to be approved by that team. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. That implies instead of having it here, you add it here, right? And that simplifies the approach here because we don't need to a specific feature to extend that. Okay? However, there's another reason we want to do these module things, which is more about authorization in runtime, which is we have this keyword here, which is the module, and the module here, right? And something we want to say is that a specific client credential, like a specific secret, for example, can only perform different actions in each module. So the client secret that the Confluence application will only have permissions to write tuples in these types, okay? And the client credentials that the project team, the Jira team is going to have, will only have permissions to write tuples in this module by the project and the ticket types, right? And so from that perspective, I think the main thing that we need to, so from that approach, what's going to happen is that if you define the types in the organization member, okay, then the credentials you need, they need to have permissions to write tuples in the core module.
Okay, I understand.
Okay,
because we have a similar not problem, but something we address for the permission, and actually we have like a BFF service in front of OpenFGA for other services, and our permission to write tuple is based on relation and not on type, because we know that for the user you have a permission, for example, to make connect to bank accounts or to validate invoices, etc. And some tuple can be written by some relations can be written by a certain service and not by other, but it can be on the same type. So that's why for us the granularity is on the relation, not on the type.
Okay, makes sense. So if let's say okay, so the approach we were thinking to do something like this, like a type. And then we say define, I don't know, can create page user, something like this, right? So this is a permission that a relationship that only makes sense for the Confluence team, because it can create the page, right? And so if we handle it this way, right, where you have these in this case, if we have permissions per module, so you could say the credentials for the Confluence team let you write any tuple that is in this module, which includes this relationship, right? Would that work for your use case? Yeah.
Yep, as long as the core team cannot write this relation.
Yes, unless you give them permissions to this specific module, they wouldn't be able to write this relation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, makes sense. Okay, good. Yeah, because we are struggling with this decision of adding it now or not, but it's clear that for your use case, you clearly need this. Makes total sense. Okay, perfect. Any other comments about this? Anyone is needing this feature besides Jan? Like this usually happens when you have like a large team or multiple teams working in different parts of the OpenFGA product, right? And you want like each of them to manage their own piece of the authorization model.
And beyond the size, it's more about the security because we are handling sensitive data, money, and etc. And it's really a requirement from our security department to reduce who can write tuple and relations to the least amount possible.
Makes total sense. Perfect. So we're going to start. So we're going to go back, think about this use case again, right? Because I think like you made it very clear about the use case, and I think it is the one we were thinking of. I think, but we plan to start working this next week, and then this whole thing. So hopefully you have it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the modular part, so you can create the modules and manage them, whatever. Later, we're going to do the permission part. So initially, it's just be a way to split the model. Later, it's going to be a way to actually use the permission, to use the permission. Okay, great. So we haven't made a lot of progress in this one, but I recommend you. This is this API that will let you return again. If you have this model, like user and documents and viewers, I can list all the users. They have a viewer relationship with specific document. I guess we have today list objects. We are building list users. This is something that we're gonna start working probably in a couple of weeks, but we are still figuring out some details. Okay, so that's basically it from features. Some things in the community. So first, we are transitioning. We'll be transitioning the next couple of weeks from Discord to the CNCF Slack. So so you can click that link. You go to Slack, CNCF.io. You can sign in, and you'll see an OpenFGA channel that was created last week, right? So so we're gonna move the support for OpenFGA there. So I hope we see you there, and we'll be transitioning out Discord over the next weeks, right? And this is part also. So we, as you may know, we in Octa we also have a hosted version of OpenFGA that we're going to be launching relatively soon. So we're also going to discontinue Discord as a way to support to the support for the hosted product too. So like we have two ways of support. One is with OpenFGA, which will be in CNCF, and then the standard Octa support things for the commercial product. Right? So please join the CNCF channel. And so I'm talking about the CNCF. We're going to be in Europe in March to present a couple of things in KubeCon. So Jonathan, he couldn't make it to the call. He's going to be presenting on a way to use OpenFGA for authorizing access to Kubernetes clusters. And in a way, you manage access to the cluster with whatever ADP. In this case, we're going to use Keycloak. So you define permissions in Keycloak, and based on those permissions, you will be able to have different permissions in different Kubernetes clusters. So we're going to demo that approach. And then I'm going to be presenting with Pauline from Agicap, where that's a company Jan works for, on how they are using OpenFGA internally. So this is going to be in Paris in the third week of March. So if you are around, please let us know, and we can talk and meet. I'm sure I'm gonna meet Jan there. So looking forward to that. No, you're going to Paris. Okay. So I need to go. Where are you in Lyon?
The company is in Lyon, but we are almost all for remote. Personally, I'm in Toulouse, in the southwest.
Okay, so perfect. I need to find an excuse to go to Toulouse then, so I can meet Jan. Okay, good. Then there's an event at the same week, which is called Canonical Operator Day. You might have heard that Canonical is integrating OpenFGA in their Ubuntu Pro stack. So we're gonna talk about that, how Canonical is using OpenFGA across all of their products. We're gonna have a kiosk there in KubeCon and a lightning talk. So it seems nobody's gonna be there in this group, but besides us, but it's gonna be fun. And there's a few articles that were posted in the last few weeks. If you follow us in Twitter, you'll get notified whenever this happens. But there's a company in the security space that is called Stacklock that is doing a lot of work with OpenFGA too. And they have, I also recommend to do what the products are and how they are integrating FGA. And there's a tutorial in Spanish that how to integrate OpenFGA that is pretty cool too. And right now, we have one member of the community, which is Ragged. He's always there, always helping out in Discord. He signed up for participating in this show, which is a streaming show that takes 3 hours. So it's going to be 3 hours in that GitHub, in that YouTube streaming. So, but it's right now. So at the same time of the community meeting. So we're going to go there to vote for him after the call ends. So this is basically what we had for today. I don't know if you have any more questions or comments. So we didn't have time for modeling time this time. I'm sorry, XTC. So we'll do it the next time. And but thank you very much, and we'll see each other in a month.